Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. There are calls to reopen Windsor's safe consumption site. That's after a new potent drug was found on Ontario streets. Plus, the official opening of Windsor's new plasma donation center, with Canadian Blood Services saying the community's generosity has already exceeded expectations. And a unique housing listing that has a unique license. We share with you how a regular residential home advertised as having 18 bedrooms is legal. A new potent drug showing up on the streets in Ontario is raising concerns about a rise in overdoses. It's also renewing calls to fund Windsor's supervised injection site. The CBC's Jacob Barker has more.
Shut down since December, the consumption and treatment site known as SafePoint isn't open to assist right now. It comes at a time when officials raise concerns about the possibility of a new dangerous drug making an appearance on the streets.
This is a pause, a still pause. We're waiting for the province to give us an answer in terms of approval.
Windsor police highlighted a new drug earlier this week detected on the streets of Toronto. Medetomidine is a potent animal tranquilizer that's being cut into drugs such as fentanyl.
The challenge with this drug is that naloxone is not working well with that, but naloxone helps with the opiate component.
Alou says the drugs is the likely cause of overdoses spiking in other Ontario communities. And while there hasn't been a similar spike here yet, the substance is likely already circulating here. He wants to get the word out to people to be safe when consuming.
If you choose to use drug, use it with someone else, and don't use at the same time. Separate your use from your friend use. Start low, go slow. If you're getting a new product you haven't tried yet.
The province put the application to fund SafePoint on hold last December while they review the province's existing 17 sites. It came after a shooting near a supervised consumption site in Toronto. With new dangerous drugs circulating on the streets, advocates are asking what the holdup is.
It means that there'll be more fatalities, there'll be more people that die, more sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, grandparents that will be overdosing, and more people grieving in the community, more people afraid in the community, and a lack of treatment options.
We have a program that's on pause, but it's like we can't pause people's lives in real life. I can't just say to a person who's using substances, hey, like, hold on 1 minute, don't die. We'll be right back. But I might not be back for a few months.
Even Alou says SafePoint is part of their plan to deal with overdoses in the community.
This is one of the tools that we have. I think that this is one of the strategies that can save life.
We asked Ontario's Ministry of Health today when they might again consider the application to fund Windsor's site. They say the review is ongoing, and once complete, that will determine any next steps. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
A 15-year-old is facing several charges after police say they pointed what appeared to be a gun at a taxi driver to get out of paying. Windsor police responded to a report of a robbery yesterday just after 4 p.m. on Ramo Road. Afterwards, police say the suspect ran away, but they quickly caught up with him nearby. Inside the suspect's backpack, police say they found a replica pellet handgun, a baton taser, and a Molotov cocktail. The teen has been charged with 7 offenses, including armed robbery and wearing a disguise with intent. Police say this is not the youth's first run-in with the law. He was charged earlier this month in a downtown robbery. Now, an unusual real estate listing in Walkerville advertises having 18 bedrooms with the potential for 21 and 5 bathrooms. The CBC's Dawson Chen explores a unique history and special license.
Outwardly, there's nothing remarkable about this old house at 663 Marintet Avenue, other than its state of disrepair. But a recent real estate listing for the 3-story property reveals its uncommon status. It was advertised as having 18 bedrooms, with possible expansion to 21.
Well, investment opportunity if you buy it at the right price. It does need some TLC, tender loving care, but if it's bought at the right price and renovated, the income coming from it is going to be substantial. A boarding house like this, they're very rare, very, very rare and hard to find.
The investment opportunity Todorovic describes isn't obvious. The house has no working heat and needs new plumbing. Todorovic estimates it will take at least $150,000 of renovation to make the house habitable. But that didn't dissuade buyers, even with an asking price of $650,000. Todorovic says multiple offers on the property were made, and the owner accepted one last week, just 8 days after the listing went public. But how can a house in a typical RD2 residential district have as many occupants as players in a hockey game? The answer lies in its unique history. 663 Marintet Avenue is one of only 11 addresses in Windsor classified as a specific type of lodging house.
Legal nonconforming use is a property or building that was legally established prior to the passage of a zoning bylaw that would no longer permit that use. So prior to that RD 2.2 zoning coming into effect, this would have been established as a lodging house legally, and that use can continue so long as it's being used for that purpose.
The property's lodging house license exemption even predates Walkerville becoming part of Windsor. At one time, the house served as a convent for the nearby church, which dates back to 1904. Although properties like 663 Marintet Avenue are not common, there's still cause for concern for some community advocates.
You will see some people on the lower end spectrum who are willing to put themselves in that, risk of housing insecurity because it's an affordable rent. I do think, there is a role for rooming houses, lodging houses to play in the spectrum of housing in our community. But I think there has to be an honest conversation of what that's going to look like in the community.
But Todorovic has a different perspective. While acknowledging the housing crisis, the veteran realtor sees a time for opportunity in Windsor real estate.
Here's the reality. For the buyers that are listening to me, this is the opportune time for you to buy a home. All indicators that we see say that the rates are going to drop, as they've started already. And when interest rates drop, real estate goes up. Now is an opportune time to get a home of significant value.
Todorovic says he has another lodging home property coming on the market soon, with 30 bedrooms. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
At the official opening of the new Plasma Center, Canadian Blood Services says it's already noticed immense giving from our community. We were at the ribbon-cutting ceremony at the Roundhouse Center earlier today. The official opening of Windsor's new plasma clinic happening today. But doors at this new location have been open for the past 6 weeks, and they've been busy.
The donors are coming in, the numbers are exceeding targets, and we're very excited to be here.
In fact, the Canadian Blood Services says it's confident Windsor will be a top performer across the country, which means collecting up to 18,000 liters of plasma on an annual basis.
Saves my life every day.
Lisa Clarkson was diagnosed with neutropenia, which prohibits her body from fighting infections. She was diagnosed in 2003.
I do injections twice a week, and that injection allows me to stay healthy, to be a mom, to be a worker in the community, being part of my family's life.
The opening of the plasma clinic comes after closing the blood clinic. In fact, Windsorite's track record of being dedicated blood donors encouraged the switch to plasma.
We chose this as a plasma center because the community is really ideal from a demographic and a size and a composition point of view.
And the plasma, which is a form of medicine that amplifies the body's ability to heal, is greatly needed. Canadian Blood Services says they're able to meet the nation's blood needs through their other facilities across the country. And they say more local blood donors are willing to convert to plasma than they thought, like this longtime blood donor giving plasma today for the first time.
And I'm glad I did. I actually learned a lot about it today. And it was really something to meet someone who receives the plasma donations and really needs it to survive. And that's really heartwarming to be able to do something like that for somebody else.
Windsor West MPP Lisa Gretzky is calling on the province to address an urgent crisis when it comes to children's mental health care in our region. She made those remarks during question period today. It comes after CBC News reported some children with high needs are being placed in hotels or living inside children's services buildings. The Windsor Essex Children's Aid Society previously told CBC that at any given time, they have between 7 and 10 youth who they care for, and say some of those children need to leave Windsor Essex to get supports. Gretzky says she worries about kids in these situations.
Some kids are being trafficked and some are being targeted by drug dealers. Speaker, this is a very dire situation in my community and communities around the province. We should not have to send children from Windsor to London or Elsa Craig or anywhere outside our community to get the supports and services they need. It is absolutely despicable. So when will the Premier act to ensure that children and youth with complex needs in Windsor have the mental health supports they need in Windsor?
The Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the member opposite for that important question. If she's had an opportunity to read the Roadmap to Wellness, you'll see that we're building a plan for the province of Ontario and focused on children and youth, focused on adults, focused on seniors. And in the process of doing that, we've invested $525 million annually and will continue to do so.
Shoppers Drug Mart is being accused of taking advantage of an Ontario government program that's meant to help patients with their medication. CBC News spoke with former employees who say upper management pushed staff to make unnecessary calls to patients, then billed the province and taxpayers. Angelina King has this report.
Toronto pharmacist John Nan says med checks are valuable for patients if done appropriately. But he and other pharmacists we spoke to say in some cases the service is being exploited by Shoppers Drug Mart.
I worry that something like this really could set us back as a profession, as a healthcare system.
Nan says that's partly why he left Shoppers last year. He says his manager shielded staff from the corporate pressure, but when a new person came in and introduced targets,
That was the last straw that broke my back because I would not do it.
Medication reviews are done across the country, but it appears the concern over how Shoppers is doing them is striking a chord most in Ontario, where the province allows meds checks to be done over the phone instead of in person as was required before COVID-19. That phone call can bring in up to $75, $37 more than a family doctor bills. A letter obtained exclusively by CBC News sent to Shoppers management from a group of Ontario pharmacy owners says the pressure to bill is borderline abusive and is creating safety concerns for the provision of good medical care to patients and customers.
I'm wondering what you or Shoppers has done to address those concerns.
So once again, we take those allegations very seriously. We are certainly continuing to follow up and review this.
Shoppers President Jeff Legier says there are no targets or quotas, and management does not pressure staff to bill meds checks. He says the service is having a positive impact.
We certainly see meaningful outcomes for patients based on our internal data. 4 out of 10 times there's a positive intervention that's happening for a patient.
It was really uncomfortable.
This former Shoppers pharmacy assistant says the pressure to cold call patients to schedule meds checks is partly why they quit. CBC isn't identifying them because they now work for a different Loblaws-owned pharmacy.
I didn't feel like I was really serving the community in a helpful manner.
I thought it was odd.
Mary Fernando says she didn't realize she was even getting a meds check at first when her Shoppers pharmacy called and asked a few general questions about her routine medications.
That is bothersome to have something that was charged that was unnecessary.
Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
From summer to winter, what a difference 24 hours can make. We check what else Mother Nature has in store for us. That's coming up. It's been an early start to wildfire season in parts of Canada. It comes after Canada's most destructive wildfire season ever in 2023 that burned close to 19 million hectares. There are at least 53 active wildfires burning in Alberta, though the season normally starts on March 1st. The province has been facing warm and dry conditions and could be in for another grim season. Alberta officials say they're busy bolstering resources and aiming to add 100 firefighters to the front lines. A record 2.2 million hectares burned in Alberta last year. And in neighboring BC, there were more than 100 fires reported at the start of 2024. They're holdovers from last summer that have not gone dormant over winter. And to Texas now, an out-of-control fire, part of a cluster that has formed, is tearing through the northern Panhandle region and is now close to becoming the biggest in the state's history. This is video shot by firefighters of flames jumping a highway in front of them. Several rural communities remain under threat, prompting Governor Greg Abbott to issue a disaster declaration covering 60 counties. The Smokehouse Creek fire is the biggest threat right now. It has already scorched nearly 3,500 square kilometers of land, leaving a trail of destruction of heartbreak in some areas. Officials have issued mandatory evacuation orders, forcing thousands of people to seek shelter elsewhere. Today took a dramatic turn from what those unbelievably warm weather that we experienced yesterday. Just 24 hours ago, we were looking at temperatures of 20 degrees, and tonight, -3. Victor Paulo is here to break it all down for us.
What a change of temperatures from yesterday, where it was around 21 degrees, the high, to tonight, where we're expecting temperatures to feel closer to -12. Now, we do have some flurries heading in the Windsor region, as we do expect. Even earlier today, we had some flurries fall, but our overnight things are going to clear up. But we're going to start our Thursday. It's going to be just as cold as we entered our Wednesday. Now, quick look at some watches and warnings in the region. As you can see here, take a step to the side, a lot of Western Quebec, a lot of Central Ontario, Southeastern Ontario is going through a lot of flash freezing special weather statements. But for right us over here in the southwest of Ontario, right in Windsor where we're located, the most southern point of Ontario, it looks like as if there's no watches and no warnings which are expected for the next 24 hours, definitely especially not for tonight as well. But here's what we're looking at when it comes to the long-range forecast for where we are located. You can see that a lot of the temperatures were going to start to increase and get a lot warmer. A lot of that Arctic air, which has moved down to where we're located, is going to move its way far up north, and that's going to open up for a lot of warmer days ahead when we look at our 3- and 7-day forecast. But here's what it looks like when we're taking a look at some snowfall amounts. Well, here's some snowfall amounts we're going to be expecting over the next couple of hours. And as you can tell, not that much snow is really going to be falling where we're located, which is also a good sign. It's more of a snow globe effect when it comes to the flurries that will be falling. Now, taking a look at what's happening from a bird's eye view, well, you can see that a lot of where we are is going to be pretty cloudy earlier in the day today. That was due to all the flurries which were falling. But as you get later on in towards the rest of the week, we can see the skies start to clear up, and that's also signs that things will be much sunnier over the next couple of days. But tonight, going to be a bit of cloud cover, -5, feeling like -12, a lot colder than we've been expecting over the last couple of days. And a quick look at our 3- and 7-day forecast, well, we can see the temperatures are going to be quite cold tomorrow. It's going to be a cold start to our day. The high is going to be around -2. Feeling like -2, but as you get closer to your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, look at that Wednesday. A lot of warm temperatures coming our direction, and especially that Monday with a high of 18 degrees. Looks like as if a lot of people will be outdoors enjoying all of that beautiful sunshine. Hope you have yourselves a great night, Windsor. Over to you.
Thanks for that, Victor. A heartbreaking story about a family struggling with the mental health system. We have that coming up. A 74-year-old retired nurse in Ontario has been charged and hospitalized dozens of times since her mental health declined 6 years ago. She's suffering from bipolar 1 disorder. Her family says the system has failed her and they worry she'll die on the streets or behind bars. Christy Neese has more.
For 6 years, Michael Clary has been trying to help his sister get well. But every time Barbara Clary gets a little better, the 74-year-old retired nurse with bipolar 1 disorder decides to stop treatment, and things fall apart. Michael is at the end of his rope, and he worries she'll end up dying in the street or a jail cell.
Her rights have impeded her right to get well. You know, her rights are killing her.
CBC has been speaking to Barbara as well by phone from jail. She's tired of the revolving door with the justice system and hospitals too. But it wasn't always this way.
My life was wonderful. It was complete. I had everything. I really did.
Prior to 2018, she'd been stable for 15 years, raised 4 sons, worked as a nurse, and was close with her grandkids. Her eldest, Bradley McCutcheon, says she was a pillar of the community.
If you went anywhere in Cornwall, she knew everyone, and she was respected.
6 years ago, recurring episodes of mania and calls to police began. She was arrested for the first time in 2018. Since then, she's been convicted more than 20 times, mostly for breaking court orders to keep the peace and stay away from certain people and places. Cornwall police can't talk about Barbara specifically, but Deputy Chief Vincent Foy says situations like hers are not uncommon, and the city needs more housing and psychiatrists to help.
We have about 20 people that our mental health crisis team, or what we call VSmart, deals with on a daily basis.
After Barbara is charged, she mostly pleads guilty for a reduced sentence and is released, starting the cycle over. Michael is fed up.
Why are they showing up in front of you every couple months with more charges? And you just send them off to jail again? They get released and do the same thing over and over again? When I said something's wrong, I mean something is wrong.
In the same 6 years, Barbara has been hospitalized 14 times at the same Cornwall facility she used to volunteer for. Records provided to CBC with Barbara and her family's consent tell the same story again and again. She gets well enough to be released, then checks out against the advice of medical staff, as is her right. And in the discharge notes, staff accurately predict her return. For her family, it's been a frustrating journey.
You're totally helpless in helping family now because no matter how sick they are, they have a right to refuse treatment.
Candice Venna is Director of Justice Policy for the Canadian Mental Health Association. She says situations like this are hard on relatives who just want to help, but people can't be forced.
Everyone has that legally protected right to decide what they want to do for themselves, to decide if they want treatment. It usually is the most effective way when a person has agreed to it.
Last week, after 2 months in jail and taking medication, Barbara was released on bail. She pleaded guilty to throwing a cup at a bartender and breaching probation. She's happy to be out and doesn't want to be in hospital anymore.
I've been locked up enough all of my life, and I'm not about to go back there.
She doesn't know where she'll end up, but says she'll figure it out with friends.
And decent shoes and a nice warm coat, how can you go wrong? All I need now is a toothbrush.
For Michael, another release into the street with no support is a big disappointment. But this latest proceeding brought closure. For the first time in 6 years, a judge listened to his concerns.
I've done everything possible now. I can't do anything more, so I have to step back and see and take care of myself, basically. And that's what I'm going to do.
Before Barbara was released, the prosecutor was concerned she'll be charged again soon. If she is, she'll likely end up here at Ottawa's jail. The Ministry of the Attorney General administers Ontario's justice system. It has not responded to questions from CBC, and neither has the Ministry of Health. Christy Neese, CBC News, Ottawa.
Computers used to be the size of a small building. Now they can fit in the palm of your hand as a smartphone. And there's a tech company that's well on the way to taking the next step, an AI pin.
You can see that I have it over here. Okay. Hi. And I can also, cycle through important information and navigate through the device.
The AI pin looks like a badge and it operates on voice commands and gestures. A laser projector lets the wearer use their hand as a screen and a navigation device. Some of the built-in tech includes an advanced search function, AI-assisted messaging, language translation, and a computer vision system. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.